Everybody, and good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Township of North Frontenac Special Council meeting for September the 6th, 2023. It is approximately 9:20 a.m. To begin with, I'd like to read this particular statement. Please be advised, North Frontenac Council meetings are recorded. By attending a public meeting of council, you are consenting to your image, your voice, and comments being recorded. The chair and/or the clerk have the discretion and authority at any time to direct the termination or interruption of the recording. Such direction will only be given in exceptional circumstances where deemed relevant. Circumstances may include instances where the content of debate is considered misleading, defamatory, or potentially inappropriate to be published. The township shall not be responsible should technical difficulties prevent the recording of any meeting or a portion thereof. Technical issues may include, but are not limited to, the availability of the internet connection, device failure or malfunction, unavailability of social media platforms, or power outages. It should be noted that no protection is afforded to council members, employees, or the public for comments made during meetings which are subsequently challenged in a court of law and or determined to be defamatory. Notice is hereby provided that under the authority of the Municipal Act 2001 and according to the Municipal Freedom of Information and Privacy Act, that all information provided for at a public meeting or other public process are considered a public record. Members of council, staff, delegates, and attendees should be mindful of using names of individuals or entities when discussing matters in public. Attendees are advised that they may be subject to legal action if their actions result in inappropriate and or unacceptable behavior or comments. Okay, so let's move on with the approval of the agenda. Brooke?
Moved by Councillor Hudel, seconded by Councillor Hermer. Be it resolved, the council approves the agenda for the special meeting dated September 6th, 2023 as circulated.
Are there any comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof? Seeing none. Next up is a presentation regarding council's strategic planning process. Is our consultant on the line yet?
Not quite yet.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'll go ahead and if you want, I'll just kind of start the conversation if it's okay with you about where we're at and how we got to where we're at today.
Yes, please do so.
Right. So as you all received a copy of a administrative report that Kelly, our treasurer, and I put together. And it's about it's more of what we're looking for today is just kind of getting your input and your thoughts and your approvals for the process that we've laid out here. So Kelly and I met with our with Steve Lichty, same name as our mayor, but no relation. And I don't believe they even know each other. So just to clarify that, back on August 14th, and we came up with some, we've worked with the consultants to get kind of where we're at today. So one of the things that we wanted to talk to you about today was the focus groups. So, and that will be who the consultants will consult with as part of this. So they'll set up dates and times to sit down and actually meet with members of there's 5 groups that we listed. So number one, we want to get your thoughts on that. Are we missing groups, or is there groups you don't feel that we need to add there, or that are there, remove some of those, or it's just right? So we'd like to kind of get to that today and have you let us know where you want to go with that. As you're aware, you guys at our budget meeting approved $25,000 to do this, so we're just about $350.76 over. So we'll get that sorted out today as well, hopefully. And then we have also provided you with a draft survey that was put together by the consultant, and then Kelly and I also played with it a little bit and added a few things and removed a few things that were from that recommended from the consultants. And then we'll also need to talk about a date for your initial meeting. So I know that it's going to be difficult to get there, but we'll go from there. Okay,
Thank
and then
you.
so without, I'd like to introduce Steve Lichty, who's on our screen there now. And he, again, as mentioned, he's going to be our project manager. And it's with as the capital consultant. So anyway, welcome, Steve. We're glad you could make it. And then we'll we just got started, and I just went through the process that we're kind of proposing, and then we'll go through and any questions. Hopefully council will be able to direct to you if need be.
Thank you, Corey. Sorry about the technical problems this morning. I don't know why technology never seems to fail any other time.
It's okay. It happens.
It does
So-
happen. So, can we open the meeting or this portion of the meeting by asking counselors if they have any comments on what has been presented to us?
Yeah, I think that would be a good place to start if that works for you, Mr. Mayor.
Deputy Mayor Ingles?
I gather that what's going to happen is Steve is going to address these focus groups and come up with a report based on what he finds in the community from these focus groups. That's a slightly different process from what I've experienced in the past, where the consultant is mainly a facilitator at a meeting. And most of the ideas actually come directly from council itself. So am I wrong in that analysis of the way this is going to happen? The ideas are going to come from the community through the consultant to us, rather than mainly input directly from counselors based on their experience. Is that the process?
Actually, if I can respond to that. Actually, the focus groups are just one part of the process. Most of the input will come from council and from senior staff. We have 2 one-day planning sessions in the methodology with council and senior staff. We also have an online survey that Corey referred to, and the focus groups, and also a couple of public meetings. The reason for the focus groups and the public meetings, more or less to confirm that council, the priorities that council is selecting are the same ones that are the most important in the community. It's rare that you find that there's a difference, but you might find that there's some subtle nuances that can be taken into account. So you'll find that most of the direction is still going to come from council. It's just making sure that the public is aware of what's happening and has a chance to provide some input and possibly some tweaking.
Thank you.
And then I would
Deputy
have
Mayor.
just a follow-up question about timing. We're at September 6th now. Is it the idea that all the feedback from the focus groups would be available and reported by you, Steve, by the time of our strat plan meeting?
That's something which we can discuss this morning. Ideally, what we'd like to see is the online survey go out several weeks prior to the first planning session. Then we provide interim results at that first planning session, but you keep the survey open until we finish the focus groups and the town hall meetings. We just had a session yesterday with another client where we opened the survey in the middle of August. We asked the public to respond by September 2nd, so we could do an interim report for yesterday. We're doing the focus groups and the town hall meetings 2 weeks from now, and we're going to keep the survey open until the end of September, and then we'll do the final session with council in late October. So I would suggest sort of a similar time frame for North Frontenac, if that works for council.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Counselor Good.
Yeah, I thought I seen in here someplace about the Algonquins, but should they be involved in this focus group? Or part of it?
We leave the composition of the focus groups to council and staff to decide. It will vary from municipality to municipality as to which interest groups you want to have in the focus groups.
Okay.
Counselor Fowler.
Yes, I was looking at the focus group for seniors. How do we reach out to them if they're spread all over the place?
I think through you, Mr. Mayor. I think
Sure.
what we'll do, Councillor Fowler, we'll put an ad in the paper asking for up to 10 people who are seniors to sit on our focus group and provide that. I think we're gonna have to with a couple of these. You're right. It's not gonna be easy to just, you know, initially I was kind of thinking that, or we were thinking we could do it through the hall committees, but we have 2 hall committees now that a year ago, I would have said they were pretty much all seniors, but it's not the case now. So I think we'll throw an ad in the paper or something and try to get some input. I think that's what we talked about, so.
Though I'd like to ask the question about some of these focus groups. I agree with the North Frontenac Lake Alliance Associations. That's who we would go through, Corey, right? As opposed to just various lake associations, we go through the alliance. I think we kind of committed to that, did we not?
So the Lake Alliance could be part of it, but you have to remember there's also lake associations who are not part of the alliance. So we don't want to miss out on those as well. So yes, definitely the North Frontenac Lake Association Alliance can put their members in, but I also want to make sure that we're including the groups who aren't part of that alliance.
Okay, and the community hall groups, are you looking, there's 5 community halls, you're looking at 5 groups, you're looking at putting them all in 1 or 2 sessions?
No, we're looking at hopefully 2 members from each group up to 10. So the focus group's no more than 10 people. So we're hoping that they'll appoint 2 members from each hall committee to come out and sit on that, to be part of that focus group.
Okay, and with all this being done, what about the public in general?
So that will be part of there will be a couple public meetings that were discussed, as well as the public survey. So that they'll be covered as well.
Well, that is not in the resolution, but it is in Capital's work plan, 2 town halls. So I just don't want to lose sight. I mean, what you've got here is good. I just think better to add the extra item, and if it works out, fine, and if it doesn't, fine. I just don't want to be looked at as us missing something. And to Wayne's point about the Algonquins, I don't know what to do with that because there's more than one set of Algonquins.
So I think we would.
Do we invite everybody? I guess we would.
Yeah, that's a good question. We'll have to look at that. I guess that would be, I think we would just say Indigenous and then try to figure out who the contacts are for the various groups, I guess, if that's what you just want.
Councillor Fowler.
Yes, also there's the group Palmerston Highlands Committee Association. They're not really a lake association, but they're an association of people that have been before council already.
So maybe include them with the lake associations, if that's okay, kind of lake landowner associations. We could change that up and call it lake and landowner associations and extend that invitation to them.
That might work really well. And we would then separate the NFLAA out into their own focus group.
If I can, Mr. Mayor, and I'll confirm with Steve, I believe the maximum they're looking at is 5 focus groups. So if you want to add some focus groups, then we would be removing some from the list we provided.
Okay, in that case, the Palmerston Highlands, they can fit into the general focus groups because they are organized, but they're not set up as a lake association. Really, you know, maybe they are as efficient or more efficient than an association. I don't honestly know. Or we can include them in the association. It doesn't matter to me.
So if I can ask Steve, is 5 the maximum for the focus groups?
No, I'm not terribly concerned if you want to go to 6 or 7.
Okay.
So then to this list, can we add a general public focus group, say at Clare Mill Hall?
So you're going to have a town hall meeting where any member of the public can come. Mayor Lichty, so they'll all be coming as a, so these are just kind of breaking out into different focus groups, but we'll also have a full-on public town hall meeting where anyone can attend that aren't part of the typical focus groups, plus the survey. So you'll definitely be getting their input for sure, everybody's, or they'll
Yeah.
all be giving opportunity at least.
Yeah, I just don't want us as a group to be put into a position somewhere down the road saying we didn't invite them. I want to make sure that we cover that demographic.
Maybe Steve, could you just elaborate on what the focus groups are and why we select like certain, industry groups together?
Sure. With the public meetings, anyone can attend and they can bring any point of view on any particular issue. With the focus groups, we're trying to delve more deeply into specific issues for specific groups. Like if you look at the demographics of your township, you have a very, very high number of seniors. So that's why there's a focus group just for seniors. There's also some concern about protecting the environment, particularly around the lakes and the rivers. So that's why you have a focus group for them. So the focus groups, they focus more deeply on specific issues rather than the general. And that's what the difference between them and the town hall meetings. The town hall meetings give everyone a chance to come and they can talk about whatever it is that's of interest to them.
So I have a
Jen,
question, if that's all right.
go ahead.
So the seasonal people will have access to what forum in order to participate? Would that be the town halls or the online surveys?
They'll definitely have be able to participate in the online survey and in the town hall. I don't see any reason why they couldn't be part of a focus group, like particularly for the lake associations. I suspect that some of those members are seasonal.
That would be correct. Is there any way we could introduce a virtual session? Or would there be potentially way too many? I guess there would be too many participants.
It's always better to do them in person, but we have done some virtually in the past. It is an option.
Deputy Mayor.
I would just like to express a caution. This seems like a huge effort. You're putting together 5 focus groups, which means you're trying to assemble 5 groups of people who will commit time from the community, who will commit time to think about and discuss 5 different issues, all within a fairly short period of time. I mean, I know how difficult it is to get one group together to talk about something and meet at a certain time. This just seems to me like an enormous effort, and I just don't know how easy it's going to be to do and how much time this is all going to take.
That is something I'll have to defer to Corey and Kelly as the ones who will be responsible for finding the participants, and they'll have a better idea as to what that's going to involve.
I guess we're really not sure until we kind of see until we see who gets back to us and says they're interested in participating, right? So I see where you're coming from for sure, but I think it's important too that we're giving these groups the opportunity to participate, and so we can always say, we've included you, we've included your group, or we've included everyone. So I mean, we're willing to put in the time to see what we can get, but yeah, we certainly can't guarantee that we're going to have a big interest from everyone for sure.
If I could just comment, for example, we did a survey a few years ago of what seniors would like regarding housing. And if I were a senior and I had responded to that survey at the time, I would personally be pretty disappointed at this time to see what the township has done as a result. We've talked, nothing has happened, except we have put together a small program for outdoor maintenance, which hasn't really done anything quite yet. But I just sense that be prepared for some pushback from the community that we've already talked about this and you haven't done a damn thing. I think that might happen.
Any other comments? With regard to the survey itself, I have an issue about, well, one of our biggest challenges is our road system. And there's very little in the way of highlighting what it is. There is roads mentioned in one or two items, but it's kind of buried. And we know we're behind the eight ball, $300,000 or $400,000 every year and getting worse. So, and where's that money going to come from? So that, whether we like it or not, even if it doesn't show up in the strategic plan results, we are going to be faced with it. So I think it should have a little bit more of a higher profile, Corey, if possible.
Yep. Do you have any suggested questions, Mayor Lichty, that you would like on there to reflect that, or just?
No, just, you could just highlight, like there's, I think it's 15 and 16, I'm not sure right now, but it's sort of buried under infrastructure. It could be just like same question, but infrastructure, roads, and so forth. So it's a little more prominent. I think there's two questions in total, and it's hardly even mentioned in the other one.
So if I
And the
can,
other-
so are you looking for a question that says, are you willing to have an increase in taxes to bring the roads up? Like,
That's an interesting question.
well, it does get asked sometimes. But I'm
It's
just not
not really
sure.
part of a strategic plan, though.
I'm not sure, just trying to understand what that question would look like that's different.
Counselor Good? Counselor Good?
Yep. I think it's just got to be made aware that our tax base isn't high enough to be able to, I can just see some of the people's thoughts that would be coming out for different things for us to do in the strategic plan. And with our tax base, like going back to what John said about housing, seniors housings and that, people's got to realize we do not have the tax base to be able to support that kind of initiatives. It's too low, not like Toronto and the Ford government.
But they don't have it either. I agree with you, and I agree with, John, but we have to be careful that we're not creating expectations we cannot deliver on.
If I can, Mayor, so questions 15 and 16, you want us to just add a bullet about roads?
Hang on, I haven't got it on the screen. It doesn't, I just want the questions about infrastructure to highlight the word roads a little more. And there's nothing about, well, there's very little about medical care in there as well. There's something about health and welfare. But there are certain words trigger people's thoughts. So if I'm into the survey, hopefully now.
We can add something about roads, medical care. It's not a service we offer. So I think that's kind of it's sort of geared towards some of our services.
So this is strategic plan is related to the services we can affect and deliver. Is that what we're looking at this? How we're looking at this?
I would think that would be some of our focus.
It's reasonable to assume some services that the municipality does not provide directly, but you may have some advocacy potential, because there'll be some services that affect the taxpayers that are provided by the county or by other public organizations. So if things like seniors care, technically that's not a responsibility of the lower level, but it's certainly going to be of a high interest to your citizens. So you want to be careful that you don't raise the expectations of what you're going to be able to do, but it doesn't hurt to have some mention of it in it, as long as it's carefully worded.
Okay.
Not to mention that even if it's an issue we can't really affect, it's going to come up at these public meetings. So we need to be prepared for that.
You know, I'm kind of going through this survey again, and question 11 talks about tax increases.
What page is that on, Mr. Mayor?
It is on page, well, it's on the
Anyone?
second or third last page. Third last page of that whole package. Kind of a referendum question. Increase taxes enough to expand, increase or grow services. You know, maintain services current levels, maintain current tax level, reduce taxes. What would be the harm in adding a bullet point there that say increase taxes to improve our road system? Or am I being too specific?
I would say that's entirely up to council if they would like to add a question, so that that's why.
That's where the
So
questions
if you
go.
want maybe a separate question, it's kind of done the same way, only just specific to roads, increase taxes to bring all the roads up to a standard of excellent or good, and then, you know, gradually increase. You know, we could kind of word it the same way, just have one specific to roads only.
Anyone in council have an opinion, dissenting or supporting? Councillor Fowler?
Yeah, one thing I'd like to say about this strategic plan is that we should be looking forward to build our tax base, not accept the status quo. I think that should be one of our focuses in this endeavor.
Okay, so let's go back to the road question. Does anybody object to having a question in there about increasing taxes to improve our road network system or our network of roads and transportation?
No, I don't have any objection to that, Mayor. I think it's a good question to keep in there because everyone talks about how some of our roads are not in great shape. And I think that's an important question. It needs to stay in there.
Councillor Good?
Yeah, I think we're missing another aspect here too, but it's fire and rescue as well. But I don't have any problem with that, putting that one with the taxes in there. I think I already know the answer on that. And it's gonna be no.
That's okay.
Our roads here are, and highways are in a lot better shape than the majority of roads in Toronto, Hamilton. I've been in both of them, worked in both of them, and the roads there are terrible compared to what ours are. Ours are in very good shape compared to those and to some of the other neighboring municipalities around here. So, but I think we gotta really look back to another one, like I said, fire. With the climate change way it's being going, look what's going on in BC, what went on down the East Coast, Quebec. With the inevitables here, it's the hot, dry summers and that. We got a lot of campers. There's bound to be a fire within the next few years, in my opinion. So I think we better be looking at trying to help that department out as well, the fire.
So there's two questions. Deputy Mayor.
I think it's important to be aware that 3 members of this council are on the Economic Development Task Force. And the function of that task force is partly to figure out new ways to spend money. We're trying to come up with initiatives that will improve the standard of living of people who are here, initiatives that will bring in new business and ultimately probably increase the revenue to the township through, ultimately through taxation.
I'm not sure it's a good idea to ask questions directly about taxation because most people don't understand how it works. For example, if the assessments, the total taxation is based on assessments, if the assessments go up due to growth, my opinion is that we should raise taxes to reflect that growth. Growth in the number of people who are here. I don't think everybody understands that. They just look at the 2% increase in spending and don't necessarily see the reasons behind it. And the EDTF is engaged in a process of trying to grow the township in various ways.
Well, you're looking at $1 million or $1.5 million to do South Levant Road, and that's one of the major thoroughfares from Ottawa. So, you know, where does that $1.5 million come from? That's what I was looking at. And I
That's
think,
almost as bad as roads in Hamilton.
well, that's your opinion, but okay. And Councillor Good has got a good point as well. If we end up increasing taxes because we have to provide further support to our fire department and to our roads department, then I'd like, if it's possible, to get a some kind of feedback from the population, the voting population. Say whether this is a good thing, whether they think it should be done, or whether they think, no, keep the status quo.
Okay, so to get clarifications, that question 11, we could leave the sort of generic question and then have another question that's specific to roads, another one specific to fire. With those same like increase, maintain. Is that what you're looking for?
So question 13 has a municipal infrastructure comment about roads, bridges, sidewalks, etc. Question 11 then would add the two questions about fire and road tax increases. For instance, if our tax base is $70,000 for 1% on the levy or thereabouts, and we have to put up taxes $140,000 a year, we've just gone from 2% to 4% or thereabouts. And, you know, does the population really want that, or is that just us thinking, hearing anecdotal evidence? So you know, we're just asking questions. What do you think, folks?
Councillor Hermer would like to make a comment.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Hermer.
Well, we talk about economic development. Well, increased taxation is detrimental to economic development. So it's kind of a seesaw battle here.
It is. If you build it, they will come. Maybe. Deputy Mayor.
Perhaps it's better to ask about whether people want to see more spending on things like roads and infrastructure without mentioning the issue of taxation. Just don't talk about that explicitly. Let people figure it out on their own. Just ask if they would like to see more spending on certain areas.
Any other comments on that point? Cory?
So I think question 13 actually addresses that, the way the deputy mayor just had said that at the very end, invest in municipal infrastructure, bracket roads, bridges, sidewalks, etc. That's the question 13 of opportunities. So please select up to 3 opportunities to make the township of North Frontenac an even better place to live. And that's part of that. So would that work? Is that okay like that, Deputy Mayor?
So if I can, the purpose of the meeting is just to finalize the survey for going out. So do we want to add 2 questions that are specific to roads and fire? Similar to question 11, or we're just looking for direction?
I'm for adding 2 questions, although the road question is kind of included in question 13. But this would be a specific levy for each, and you know, the cost of a fire truck and somehow increasing our staff and so on, it's all going to go up. So if we put them in question 11, you could have a check and balance that way. So I'm okay with that. What does everybody else think? Councillor Hoodle.
Yeah, just to make this go, I'm fine with question 11 the way it is, but if you want to add those 2 things, then I'll agree to that.
So does anybody else object to the addition of those 2 questions? Okay, seeing none. Kelly and Corey, can you put them in, please?
Yep. So just for clarification, that's 2 separate questions. Is that what we're talking about? I just want to make sure we do it the way you want it.
Yes.
Yep, we'll add them.
So that then brings us to, is there any other questions about the survey or any comments? So looks like we have an agreement. So then we have the item, the additional $350. Anybody object to that? And then we can vote on this. Okay, Brooke, would you read the resolution, please?
Deputy Mayor, before we get there, is it okay if I ask I just need a little more clarification on some of this. It's okay.
Sure.
So can we just go back? We talked about adding an Indigenous focus group. I don't think we finalized that. So is that what you want us to do? You want us to add that or not? And we also talked about virtual as well as in person. So I just want to get, if we could, I just need your final direction on that too. I just don't want us to put this together and get going and leave stuff out that you do want or don't want. So if I could just get final direction on that stuff, that'd be great.
So my question to council is, let's focus on the virtual meeting first. Do we think that the majority of opinions would be captured by the lake associations and the NFLAA? And then we wouldn't have a virtual meeting? Councilor Good?
Question to Kelly on the virtual meeting. Do you think it would actually work out, or would we be overloaded with it?
So we could hold a virtual meeting in here through Zoom. People would register and they would use raise hand feature when they want to speak and go through it that way. I would refer to Steve as whether we would then forego one of the in-person meetings. We'd have a in-person public meeting and then a virtual public meeting, if that's what council's looking at.
I think we can, if council wants to have a virtual meeting, I think we should go with 3 because the in-person meetings, we suggested 1 during the day and 1 in the evening, because sometimes people can't make it to one or the other, and that you want to give maximum opportunities for people to participate.
Councilor Hoodle.
I guess the one concern I have with the lake associations, would that be held on a weekend or during the week? Because this is the issue that we had during campaign when all the meetings were held during the week and they got quite upset, but not on the weekend because they're not here during the week, especially in September.
Could they do that virtual? Focus group meeting with the associations, could that be done virtually? And then it would be whatever works kind of thing. Sorry, Kelly, go ahead.
I think Steve prefers the focus groups in person, if I'm not mistaken.
So
Yeah.
I would agree. I mean, I'd rather have them in person too, but I just thinking of what the lake associations are gonna say. You're having a meeting on say a Wednesday morning or a Wednesday afternoon.
So keep in mind, the focus group is 10 people. So it's going to be a representative from, a few different groups. And Steve can confirm, I think the town hall meetings can be done on a Saturday.
We have done focus groups on a Saturday as well, as long as there's access to a building. And it's often very useful to have one of the public meetings on a Saturday because more people can attend.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea specifically for the lake associations.
So, Councillor Hoodle, following on your question, there are 18 lake associations. And the focus groups intended to have 10 representatives, of which 10 of the 18 is then represented. So that was the issue of using the NFLAA as a representative of the majority of the lake associations.
No, I think that's fine. You can invite the NFLAA, but to Corey's point, there are lake associations that aren't part of the NFLA, so they need to be invited also.
So is this a question of determining the focus groups and then deciding how we can best deliver it down the road? That becomes an operational issue? Councillor Good?
Yeah, I think maybe we should keep in mind too, that we may not get as much response as we think we are or expect to. We've changed our daytime meetings to nighttime meetings, and from what I've seen, there's been nobody here at the nighttime meetings, other than the ones that has, and they would attend daytime meetings, other ones that they has got something, a beef to do with us or something on the agenda. Other than that, they would attend the daytime meetings as well. So the nighttime meetings hasn't changed that process. And we've seen that for, well, I've been here 16 years. We used to have nighttime meetings at the start, and it's never changed. It's always been anybody's got a beef with the council or something on the agenda that they attend.
Can I ask
So-
a question, Mayor?
Yes.
So
Sure.
Steve, how's your time for weekends? I know it's hard because we're also trying to plan around Central Frontenac because we kind of did a joint deal here. So how would that work for you guys if we start getting into some weekend meetings?
I'm not the least bit concerned about weekend meetings. What I'm more concerned about is having the sessions with Central Frontenac and North Frontenac on consecutive days, just because of the travel time. That if we come, we'd like to do all of the focus groups and the town hall meetings for both municipalities in the same week. I'll let you argue with Kathy and Michael about who gets the weekend and who gets the weekdays.
So where are we with this? I've kind of lost track all of a sudden. So I know the Aboriginal or not the Aboriginal, the Indigenous vote or the Indigenous representation. Do we just make sure that we invite them to one of the focus groups? Can we do that? Corey?
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out which focus group we would, if we're wanting kind of the Indigenous angle on things, I'm just not sure which focus group we would put them in, that's all. Any thoughts there?
If I can, I believe Steve, you're gonna reach out to some of our community service organizations, just like on a phone call, one-on-one for input. I wonder if that would work for the Indigenous group as well.
This is just my opinion and feel free to disagree with it. But I would suggest having a separate focus group just for the Indigenous representatives. And I know with some other municipalities, they get, sometimes they get very good participation, sometimes they get essentially no participation. But the important thing is that you've made the opportunity available. You've opened the door. So they can't say they weren't consulted or weren't given an opportunity to provide input.
Anybody have an opinion? Deputy Mayor?
I agree that if we're going to get Indigenous input, it should be a separate item, not part of something else.
I support that. Anybody disagree or have a different opinion? Okay, we have an Indigenous group. Are we prepared now to read the motion and vote on it?
We just have the matter of dates. I think we need to figure out the dates too, right? Of when you want to proceed. So with your first council meeting where the consultants will come meet with you guys, and then you'll have your first in the report or in the stuff from the consultant there, there's a kind of I think a schedule of the day of what they'll be doing that day when they come. So we want to try and get a date laid out with you guys, because then that same week is when the focus groups will take place and the town hall meetings, all of that stuff. So it's going to be a really busy week. So we want to try and get a date laid out with you guys for that as well. So I know Kelly and I had suggested the 26th, but I see Deputy Mayor Inglis is not available that day. And I think Councillor Good as well was not available there, but we're also having some issues with, this is conference season for staff. It's staff are finishing up vacation. So this is a tough one. It's a really hard one to find 3 or 4 days where we can all squeeze in. So I'm not sure how you just want to do this. I mean, when I look at it, it's important that everyone be able to participate, but at the same time, it may be impossible for us to find a time that everybody can participate. So I guess I want some input, hoping for some input from you as to how you just want to do this and deal with when we can't have someone present.
Well, that's not part of the resolution. And isn't this more of a strategic thing, or strategic is the wrong word here? Just a logistic issue?
No, so we'll add it to the resolution actually once we get there, Mayor Lichty. I mean, it's really important that we try to get a date, because like we mentioned before, we're also kind of trying to work with when it's going to work for Central Frontenac as well to try to get some of these in place. So that was the 26th was kind of one that we could come up with that we thought would work really well for all of those factors. But again, you have two members of council who aren't available. So I think it's pretty important that we come up with a date that we can do these.
Do you have an alternative date, Corey, or no?
Mr. Mayor, I plan on trying to be here for the 26th. I just can't make that promise, but I think I will be back from Manitoba by then.
So Kelly and I had taken a quick look. So we had talked with Steve yesterday and Tim, the president of the Capital Park Consulting. So we had written down the 10th of October, and then with the 11th, 12th, and 13th for focus groups and town hall meetings. But then when I looked this morning, I realized I had missed that our public works manager is away for a trip on vacation that week. But it looks like everybody else. But I mean, it's hard. I think it's going to be hard to do strategic planning without our public works manager, especially with the impact on roads that we've just talked about today. And then we looked at other date, and that worked for the consultants that time period. So we're not sure if that. Then We had looked at, Kelly and I looked at some other dates this morning, which looks like my sticky disappeared. I'm gonna have to go and grab my sticky off my desk, maybe. It might be on my desk. Oh,
Well, as far as I'm concerned, I've already adjusted my schedule to fit the 26th. So
yeah, so I just don't know how to do this. I don't want anybody to feel left out, but at the same time, it's gonna be really hard to get a date when everybody is absolutely available. The other one we had, and I haven't run this by the consultant yet, was the week of October 23rd or the week of October 30th. But again, we're starting to get late in the season. So with town halls, September 30th and October 1st. But again, like I said, it's hard to, it's really difficult to squeeze this in for everyone.
Yeah, the October 24th and 25th are county budget dates, I think.
Okay.
both days are just one, Fred.
I have both dates on,
Okay.
the 26th of September was okay for me. I actually had that penciled in September.
So what if we did it on the Monday, the 25th for your deputy mayor English, you're away the 26th to the 28th? So would that, the only one?
No,
No?
no.
Okay.
I have the 26th and the 27th and the 28th open. Of September. And we can do the week of the 30th of October, 30th, 1st and 2nd of November.
Steve, would that work for you and Tim? I'm sorry, we didn't get to talk about this date, but again, this morning, we just get time to give you a call.
No, that's okay. The only date that does not work for Tim and I that has been mentioned would be October 30th.
Does November 1st work for everybody then?
According to the calendar, Deputy Mayor Inglis is away at a conference on the 2nd and 3rd. So it just wouldn't fit again with all to try to do all the focus groups and everything that week, that's all. If we want to make sure we include everyone.
Will we be getting a chance to discuss this at other than the meeting we're trying to schedule right now? I'm suggesting maybe I should miss the first strat plan meeting if there's another one following that.
So, Tim, can you comment on that? So if we were to go ahead with it on the 26th, as we originally planned, and the deputy mayor's unable to make the 26th, will there be another meeting after that where he's able, before anything's approved, or where he's able to add his input?
Oh, absolutely. There's two different sessions, each one day. So this is the first day, and then we'll have to set a second day where we have, I wouldn't say it's a complete draft, but you've got sort of the bare bones of what the plan would look like, and you're still adding some meat to the bones, and you can still change things and add things.
Go ahead and put it on the 26th then.
Thank you, John.
So that, if we want to do something with the focus groups on the Saturday, as suggested earlier, so that would bring us to, so 26th, 27th, 28th.
Saturday's the 30th.
Of September. That'll be the 30th. Tim, the 30th, would that work? Or, sorry, Steve, would that work for you guys to do some focus groups with the cottage, with the lake associations on the
Actually-
Saturday, the 30th?
Actually, that would actually work pretty well because I'm assuming that a lot of the cottages are typically staying open until around Thanksgiving. So you're probably going to get a higher participation.
And then the other groups you could do through the week. I think it's just the lake associations that we need to worry about for the week, for the Saturday. Is that correct, Councillor Hoodle? Okay, does that work for you, Steve?
Yeah, that works. And if you also want to have one of the public meetings on a Saturday, that can work as well.
Okay. So when you do the public meetings, with the expectation, I think I read that you were hoping for senior staff involvement as well as council involvement, typically?
Yeah, we're not expecting all of council to be there or all of the senior staff. It's nice to have some representation there. You're not expected to make any presentations, but I think the fact that your presence shows that you're supporting the process, and you're also available in case some questions come up that you're the most qualified to answer.
And what about the focus groups? Would your expectation be for staff or council to be part of the focus groups?
Preferably not. It allows people to speak more freely in case they have something that they want to be critical of. We sometimes a municipality wants to have someone just come to greet the participants at the start and then to leave, but that's not necessary.
Okay, thank you. Council, you guys all okay with that response? That sound good to you?
Anybody have any issues with this? Seeing none, go with it.
I think I have everything I need from that. Kelly, do you have anything further that we need? Palmerston landowner, we're just gonna add them to the Lake Association one, correct? We decided on that. We're gonna do a separate group for Indigenous. Medical care, we're gonna add some wording. We're gonna add some wording to the survey about medical care. Did we decide on that one? I know we talked about it, but did we make a decision on that?
No, we didn't.
Okay.
Comments, folks? Does anybody want medical, specific question about enhanced medical care? John, Deputy Mayor?
I'm not sure we need a specific question about it. The EDTF subgroup is already working on this issue. We know that people want medical care. We don't need to ask them about it. We're working on it.
Keep in mind, we're trying to create a series of strategic initiatives that we as a council are going to work towards over the next 3 or 4 years. And what we're really doing here is soliciting input from individuals as to what they would like us to do. So yes, your group is working on it and that's wonderful, but that doesn't, that's going to come up anyway in the conversations. Stephanie's got kicked off, I can't get back in, but she's already made the comment that, you know, whether or not we put that in, it's going to show up. So maybe we just leave that exactly the way it is, because it's kind of referenced, and if people really care about it, it will show up, and we are creating expectations that we may not be able to deliver on.
Okay, so we won't add any more for that then. Okay, and it'll come up with that, we're thinking. All right, thank you.
Okay, are we done?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, is there anything that that you as council feel we were really missing the boat on here? So this is really, it's your plan for the next 4 years. Probably going to be one of your most important documents other than your asset management plan. That's going to really provide guidance to you and to staff. So if there's anything that you've went through and you guys are like, we're really missing the boat, please feel free to let us know, because we want, again, we want to make sure that this is, it really is your plan, and it's, really important. So it's, up to you guys.
Counselor Fowler.
Yeah, regarding what you said, one thing that comes to mind, and I always try to push that, is more development within the township. More people coming here and being able to develop. I think at the lower tier, we're sort of limited to how many people we could, like how big a development can be, but with the upper tier, I know it's, they're there for the larger type developments and that. I'm just more or less concerned that we should be open to development.
Those questions not in there already?
So in question 16, we talk about future issues. In your opinion, what would be the top 3 issues the township will need to address in the next 25 years? So we talked about population growth. So would that kind of address that, Councillor Fowler? Yeah. And then we
I
also
think it
talked
would,
about
yeah,
it.
as long as it's there that we're going forward.
Yeah, and
to
it's
build the
also in
tax
there for
base.
the next 4 years as well. And question 15 is population growth. So we've included that in a couple of spots, but again, we didn't focus on it big time, but we put it in there.
So my only other comment is when I went through Capital's report, and the analysis with council and so on, it seemed like a significant number of small focus groups splitting out, doing something, coming back and so on. Is there any possibility, and this is not for a decision today, but it's a thought process only, where we can reduce that? So, you know, instead of having 2 people, we could have 3 or 4 in a group. I'm thinking about the physical space, where we're going to be doing this, what's available, and so on and so forth. So it's just something for the administration and Capital to think about. Is there a way where we can simplify the number of individual focus groups when we do the analysis?
Are you talking about when you have the council, your council day, Jerry, where you have that meeting, or is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
You're talking about
Yes. 2 people get together for 30 minutes, then they come back, and then some people split again and they come back. It just seems that it can be simplified. Maybe it can't be, and maybe doing that messes with the consultant's idea of how this should actually go. I'm just looking for something a little more simpler, if it's possible. And given the fact that we don't have an unlimited number of meeting rooms. And yes, we have a council chambers, but all of a sudden, how does that split look? And, you know, is there any kind of place where you can get away without overhearing somebody else? I don't know. It just seems something I'm going to ask the administration and the consultant to see if it's meaningful, if it can be simplified to some extent.
Steve, can you comment on that, please? Is there other ways?
I'm not asking for that,
Oh,
Corey.
sorry.
I'm just saying that's between you and the consultant. Just saying, I'm thinking as the mayor, it's a little complicated. If it can be made simpler, that's fine. If it isn't, so be it.
Yeah, Kelly and we'll address that with Steve. We'll talk to them about that. Sure.
Thanks, Corey. Appreciate it. So, Brooke, can you read the resolution, please?
Moved by Councillor Fowler, seconded by Councillor Hutto. Be it resolved that council receives for information the Chief Administrative Officer and Treasurer's Administrative Report entitled 2023 Council Strategic Planning, and that council approves the following focus group categories to be contacted by the consultant's staff. 1. North Frontenac Lake Associations. 2. Community hall groups. 3. Businesses. 4. Parent council from Clarendon Central Public School, North Addington Education Center, and Granite Ridge Education Center that represent North Frontenac residents to capture family demographics. 5. Seniors demographics. 6. Indigenous groups. And that council approves the community survey as amended to include a question specific to roads and a question specific to emergency services. And that council instructs the treasurer to transfer the additional expense of the strategic plan consulting at an estimated $350 from the contingency reserve fund. And that the next strategic planning session will be held on September 26, 2023.
You've heard the resolution. Are there any final comments? So I think the
Councillor-
sorry, go ahead.
Councillor Good just had asked us to add the Palmerston group on there somewhere too. So we'll just, if it's okay with council, we'll add that.
Yeah, under the lake associations.
Yes.
Is it okay if we just say lake associations / landowner associations? Okay.
Thanks, Wayne, for that. The only thing we haven't talked about it, and it just came to me as Brooke was reading this. Do we have a youth demographic? Or are we getting too fine now?
Mr. Mayor, we tried on last term of council having the mayor meet with the youth groups, Sharper Lake and Cloyne, and it didn't work out very well from what I can remember. There was very few participation in it.
Okay. Thanks, Councilor Good. I guess they can get wrapped up in everything else and then the school, school focus groups as well. Okay. Are we prepared to vote? All in favor of the resolution as read and amended? Carried. Is there a public forum? Anybody on the public wishes to make a comment on what we've talked about at this particular meeting?
There's no public in attendance.
Okay, so item 6, confirmatory bylaw. Brooke?
Moved by Counselor Hudel, seconded by Counselor Hermer. Be it resolved that bylaw 5623, being a bylaw to confirm all actions and proceedings of council for its special meeting held September 6th, 2023, be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed.
Any comments? In favor? Opposed? Carried. The adjournment of council. Brooke?
Moved by Counselor Fowler, seconded by Counselor Hudel. Be it resolved that council adjourns the special meeting at 10:27 a.m. until September 7th, 2023, or at the call of the chair.
Any comments on that? In favor? Carried.